What's up, addicts? Well, fortunately for us, we have the NFL saving us from the temporary sports hiatus that we're all forced into due to COVID-19. And free agency period is going on right now. We're in what's called the legal tampering period, meaning that agents and teams can talk, but they can't actually talk to the players. We have breaking news. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but the Texans and the Cardinals have agreed to a trade. The Cardinals are trading the Texans David Johnson. We'll stop with that real quick. David Johnson looked pretty bad last year, clearly hurt, and hasn't really looked like himself for quite some time. Maybe it was the injury. We'll see. Apparently the Texans tried to re-sign Carlos Hyde about a week or two ago, and he turned down the offer that they gave him. So, David Johnson's going to the Texans. But on the other end of that trade, I can't even believe I'm saying it. The Texans are trading DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson. I'm sure there's more to this trade. We'll get more information as it breaks, but DeAndre Hopkins is now going to get to play with Kyler Murray, and maybe David Johnson will play on the Texans. I don't understand why Bill O'Brien is so determined to just absolutely destroy the Houston Texans franchise. I mean, at this point, it looks like the Houston Roughnecks eventually will be taken over as the NFL franchise and will relegate the Texans down to the XFL. So be on the lookout for that news coming out here within the next year. But hey, if you have David Johnson or DeAndre Hopkins in Dynasty right now, very interesting news. I think let's break down what I think this actually means from a fantasy perspective, getting over the hilarity of it. This is great news for Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray last year clearly needed a fantasy receiver, or just a receiver that wasn't Christian Kirk, who love Christian Kirk. I think he's a phenomenal athlete, but he's not someone that you want as your alpha receiver. Christian Kirk is going to see a boost to his value as well, because now he's not going to draw the number one corner from the opposing team. And I don't know that this is good for DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's a mixed bag. Anytime a receiver goes to a new team, the first year is a little rough, especially with a sophomore quarterback. So this might be a little bit of a rough season for DeAndre Hopkins, and considering that he's getting a bit older, it's going to definitely hurt his career trajectory just a little bit. But I think he's good enough that it won't matter all that much. But overall, great news for Kyler, great news for Christian Kirk, and not that bad news for DeAndre Hopkins. Terrible news for Deshaun Watson, terrible news for the Houston Texans franchise. Like I said, David Johnson, last we saw him, was terrible. He couldn't cut, he couldn't even make it around the edge. He looked like he was a 40-year-old running back out there. Again, a lot of that may have had to do with the back injury that he sustained last year, and even though he was off the injury report, we know that NFL teams typically will take players off the injury report even though they're fully not ready to go back. I mean, it's a physical, violent sport, so we see that kind of stuff all the time. But if last year was any indicator of what David Johnson is, even if it wasn't, even if we were getting the David Johnson that we had from a few years ago, still not DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm really curious to see what the rest of this trade is, but I have no faith in Bill O'Brien at this point. So my guess is they didn't get anything worth it in return. So big news. Anyway, we'll be posting stuff about the free agency over the course of the next couple weeks, keeping you guys, giving you some information to chew on for sports. And hit me up in the comment section if you have any other takes on this. All right, take care.